A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review. This time I am going to be reviewing An Ordinary Ecstasy by Luke Carman. I have the Kindle version of this book. Now let me just preface this video by saying that Luke Carman is an extraordinarily good friend of mine. We went to university together, and so I am going into this with a little bit of bias because I really love the stuff that he has written. An Elegant Young Man was his first book. Intimate Antipathies was his second book of essays, and this is his third book, short story collection. So yes, I'm going to be saying good things about this book. However, it is not because he is a friend of mine. It's because this book is fucking awesome. However, I will say that this book is not for everyone. So just keep that in mind. As I go into it, I'll talk a little bit about each story, hopefully not spoiling anything for anyone who hasn't read them. But just wanted to let you all know that Luke Carman is a close personal friend. So there we go. That's the disclaimer for this video. But now we are going into the next episode of... Now, for those of you that are interested in purchasing this book, I am going to leave a link to the Amazon page. That's where I got the Kindle edition in the description below. But let's get right into this. What can you expect from these stories? There are 7 short stories in this collection. All of them deal with some aspect of, I guess you could say, Australiana, the Australian culture, but they are more personal than that. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because I have known Luke for over 20 years, and a lot of what has been written in these stories I know comes from a very personal place within the author himself, and that is a fantastic thing. You should always write about what you know. I will say that these stories are not going to be for everyone, and the reason I say that is because Luke has a very unique style of writing. As I was reading through each story, it was very obvious to me that his literary loves were coming out in the prose. There's a little bit of Kerouac in there. You can find some Paul Auster, especially if any of you have read the New York trilogy. There's, some T.S. Eliot, some Wordsworth. It's poetic prose. That's what you're getting in this collection of short stories. You're getting very poetic prose. I don't know how else to describe it. Now, I read this collection through once, loved it, but I did read it through a second time. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to make sure that my enjoyment of these stories wasn't just coming from my friendship with the author, that there was something in each story that I could either connect to, or that I could connect to the author. I could connect to Luke himself. So let's just dive straight in. I'll give you just a little synopsis of each story. So the first story, A Beckoning Candle. This is about an elderly gentleman dealing with shit. Literally dealing with shit. Next to his house, a building site has busted a sewer pipe and his garden is filled with shit. And so we get this story of this elderly gentleman who, he's married, he's very intelligent. And as he kind of wanders the neighborhood, we get this sense of community in a neighborhood that's changing, that's ostensibly being demolished by these new building projects that are coming up, which is something that you're going to see a lot in like modern Australia now, especially in the big cities and the outer suburbs of cities like Sydney and whatnot. There was a very dark humor to this story that I found, but I think I found it darkly humorous because I know Luke. Other people might not find the humor in the story itself, but that is fine. An Ordinary Ecstasy, which is the title of the book, of course. This one didn't really resonate with me as much, but it had a very, very clever premise, and that is a woman on a dating app being asked a question that she didn't know how to answer, so to speak. I thought the idea behind this was fantastic. It really makes you kind of aware of like modern day social media sensibilities, what we can say, what we can't say, what we should say, what we shouldn't say. Very good story. Tears on Main Street was, I'm just gonna put it was fucking hilarious. I don't think it was intended to be, but it reminded me, sorry for the sound outside, that is some idiot not knowing how to fix his car properly, driving up a hill. Tears on Main Street is basically a road trip. This is the Kerouac story in the book itself, where two friends who were friends in high school kind of go on a road trip because one of them wants to get revenge, so to speak, on someone they believe slighted them when they were a teenager. This has all of the stylings of Luke's writing in that he captures rural Australia very, very well. The story is basically set in Byron Bay, and you really get a sense of the countryside, of the feel of the town itself. It's a phenomenal piece of writing in that respect, but the comical nature of the story itself is just too good to pass up. One of the standout stories of this collection, if not the best story in this collection, in my opinion. A Woman to Her Lover Clings. First of all, Luke, the fucking title, you're not Wordsworth, mate. Let it go, okay? You're not a fucking poet. And you know it. See? That's poetry, dude. That's fucking poetry. I felt this was the weakest story in the collection. It is simply about a woman who is supporting her husband, who is releasing or publishing a book, setting up a publishing company. He's a poet. He wants to release a book of his poetry, and you get the journey of their relationship from university all the way through to the final book launch. It was a little disjointed. Now, writing-wise, Luke has mastered the style of prose that he has used in this collection of books. The writing is fucking phenomenal. This shit should be taught in high schools and at a university level. And I'm not fucking saying that to pander to Luke or his alter ego, Mort Shackleton. I am saying that because the writing is phenomenal. The story itself just falls flat. Very disjointed. And that's coming from my perspective in that I don't like short stories that cover enormous lengths of time, and that's what this one does. So there you go. Sit down, young stranger. Okay, I have a lot to fucking say about this, but to be perfectly honest with you, Luke has already heard my criticisms. I'm going to echo them here just for you. This is the story of a young musician who is traveling to Katoomba to play his most famous song at his friend's art exhibition. This is a mirror of an experience that Luke had at our good friend, Plaguelands Media's own Ian Van Gammet's first art exhibition in Katoomba. And while I wasn't there, I live in South Korea, and the art exhibition was at a time when I was teaching, so I couldn't fly back over there, which to this day still fucking pains me that I've not been a physical presence at any of Ian's art exhibitions. But the story itself mirrors a lot of what I have been told happened during those art exhibitions. Now, the story itself is great. Absolutely loved it. Hilarious. He included everything that he needed to include. It was just phenomenal. The geography of Katoomba, however, fucking way off. Now, this could just be memory lapse, whatever. But it really drew me out of the story, because every time I read something about the geography of Katoomba, especially Katoomba Street, Kingsford Smith Memorial Park, it fucking irritated me, because I spent most of my life living in Katoomba, and it just fucking irritated me. But the story itself, a fucking phenomenal tale. Second best story in this collection, in my opinion. Okay, my Kindle just died, so let's see if we can't get it up and running. Here we go. Okay, an article of faith. This is about a journalist who has been tasked to interview an elderly man who has gotten a citizenship award because he helps all of the people, the elderly people in his building, when they need to get medication and things like that. Very poignant. Very well written. It's a very soft story. Thoroughly enjoyed the idea of the main character, the journalist. She is kind of umming and ahhing about journalism and writing due to her university professor. Just a really nice, poignant story. Very well done. A Night at the House, the final story in this collection, is about a young couple that has suffered a tragedy, and it's just how they decide to deal with it, or not deal with it, as the case may certainly be. It's a heartbreaking way to end the collection, but I think a necessary one. Very enjoyable to read. You really certainly feel for all of the characters that are in the story that kind of are suffering from this terrible, terrible moment, this terrible loss. Okay. In each of the stories that I read, knowing Luke, knowing the author, I can see a little bit of him in every story. I can see where each story is coming from in relation to Luke himself. Does that elevate the book, knowing that I know the author on a more personal level? Of course it fucking does. I mean, you're going to find that about anything. Like, if I knew Stephen King personally, then The Stand would probably be a better book than I give it credit for. So there is that. Writing style. There's no doubt in my mind that Luke is a phenomenal writer. There's no doubt. I mean, if you read An Elegant Young Man, you're going to see it. Read Intimate Antipathies, you're going to see it. But you read this collection, you'll fucking know it, without a doubt. Just a fantastic grasp of language. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I was looking up words. Whenever I read a book, if there's a word I don't know, I stop reading, go and I look it up. I haven't done that as much as with this fucking book, and that's not a bad thing. That's just showing me that Luke understands language on a level that writers need to understand language. All in all, an absolutely phenomenal book. Now, the subject matter is not for everyone. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. But if you want a book of short stories by an up-and-coming Australian author, this book should win a fucking award. I'm not kidding you. If you want to read short stories by an author that has lived this shit on some level, it's a book of short stories that are so fucking personal. Even if you don't know Luke, you're going to understand him by the end of this short story collection. I urge you to go out and get a copy, read it. You are going to love it, provided you have sat through this entire video. Okay, with that said, like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notifications bell, but most importantly, go and check out this book on Amazon, link in the description below. Check out Playglands Media's first Kickstarter, link in the description below. Loki the Conqueror, phenomenal comic, issue 1, already done. So if you back it, you're going to get it as soon as or very close to when the campaign has actually ended. But please stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video. Read a fucking book, people. Preferably Luke's book. Read Luke's book.